Our last witness today is Dr. Jennifer Willard. She's an assistant professor in the Department of Psychology at Georgetown University. Her current research with juvenile defendants addresses police interrogation, the attorney-client relationship, and the role of parents in adolescents' legal decision-making. She also works with local nonprofit agencies to study community change and youth violence prevention. Her recent research collaborations include membership on the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, Research Network on Adolescent Development and Juvenile Justice. She has presented her research findings to a wide variety of academic, legal, and policy audiences and won several awards for undergraduate teaching excellence.
Today, briefly, I'd like to share with you some of what behavioral science research can contribute to this policy discussion about our responses to youth. First, adolescents are developmentally different from adults in ways that are critically relevant to our discussion of delinquency and crime. This won't be a newsflash to many parents of adolescents or those of us who remember our own adolescence that kids are different, but I'm here to say that the news is this isn't only based in personal experience or stereotype, but in science. The advances in behavioral and brain research already mentioned support this fundamental tenet of the juvenile justice system and the JJDPA. To illustrate, I'll focus briefly on two major aspects of adolescents' brain and behavior functioning. The socio-emotional network of the brain refers to systems responsible for emotion, rewards, social processing of information, which we know undergo major changes in early adolescence, at the same time that we see behaviors that include increased sensation seeking, increased and easier emotional arousal in young teens, and increased attentiveness to social information and the influence of peers. So adolescence is characterized by a social emotional system that's easily aroused and highly sensitive to social feedback. At the same time, adolescence is characterized by a still immature cognitive control system. Although intellectual ability peaks by about age 16, the capacity for planning, future orientation, and the ability to regulate oneself involve portions of the brain that continue to develop well into young adulthood. These areas, sometimes called the CEO of the brain, activate during what we might consider mature or deliberate thinking. The abilities to identify and consider future consequences, understand possible sequences of events, and control impulses. As a result, adolescents are less able to control impulses, less able to resist pressure from peers, less likely to think ahead, and more driven by the thrill of rewards. Moreover, the effects of immaturity are probably even greater outside the control of a laboratory. Compared to adults, juveniles' cognitive capacity is undermined by that socio-emotional system I was talking about in particular circumstances that are not controlled, not deliberate, and not calm, circumstances that likely encompass much of the adolescent delinquency risk. Theory suggests that with maturation to adulthood comes the integration of these two systems, bringing their influence into greater balance and perhaps contributing to the reduction of risky behavior that we see in adulthood. Now, let me be clear. The advances in brain imaging techniques are exciting and offer windows into the structure and function of the brain that we could only dream about. However, this research is still at its early stages. I cannot definitively tell you that certain regions of the brain are directly responsible for risky behavior, immature thinking, or delinquent acts. What we can tell you, however, is that our initial brain research is consistent with the decades of behavioral research documenting important differences in the cognitive capacities, psychosocial development, and behavior of adolescents compared to adults. Now, there are certainly adults who engage in risky behavior or act immaturely. The crucial distinction based on developmental research, though, is that adolescents as a class are more likely to demonstrate these deficiencies due to normative development that is incomplete. Most will mature into law-abiding, productive adult citizens. As a result, the research I describe on developmental differences challenges policymakers and practitioners to sort and manage a young population that can appear simultaneously adult-like and immature. So what guidance can developmental research provide? I believe that the body of behavioral and brain research calls into question assumptions made by some that juveniles are simply miniature adults because they are capable of committing certain offenses. Prior to age 16, they are different intellectually and emotionally. After age 16, they are still different emotionally. While many laws allowing or requiring juveniles to be tried as adults use age-based determinations, we really need to consider developmental maturity. The importance of separating youth from adults in correctional settings can't be overemphasized. Youths for shortened time perspective, for example, can mean that the same amount of time in isolation for a disciplinary infraction can have a more severe or excessive impact on youth than it does adults. One study comparing youth in the adult system to the juvenile system found that juvenile sanctions had an effect on youths there because they gained something, skills or hope. Adult sanctions, youth reported, tended to have an effect because they cost them something, a loss of hope, safety, or respect. It's incumbent upon us to ask questions about outcomes that extend beyond recidivism to pathways of positive development, and the JJDP emphasis on prevention is crucial. These findings support the importance of a developmentally appropriate system that simultaneously works to prevent and reduce offending while offering the opportunity for youth to follow a successful and productive developmental pathway. Thank you.